The moment Mr. Reggie Thomas stepped into the Golden Dragon Martial Arts Academy, leaning on his worn-out wooden broom, laughter broke out. Students exchanged knowing looks as the lanky black janitor, with salt and pepper curls and a clumsy gait in an oversized gi, struggled to tie the white belt around his waist. Sensei Kane watched, his thin patience barely concealed, while Brady and Liam, the dojo's top students, snickered and mockingly imitated Reggie's awkward movements behind his back. No one paid attention to his eyes, calm, quietly observant, missing nothing. No one questioned why his mistakes seemed almost intentional. They only saw what they expected, an old, mute, clumsy janitor, out of place in their world. Not the Black Thunder, once a fearsome name across Okinawa's most elite martial arts tournaments. And so, for weeks to come, they would continue to mock him. Every sneer, every sideways glance would unknowingly strip away another layer, revealing the terrifying master hidden in plain sight. But before we go further, I'd love to know where you're watching from. And if you're enjoying these stories, don't forget to follow, because tomorrow's special episode is not one to miss. As the afternoon sun stretched long shadows across the shopping plaza's parking lot, Reggie Thomas stepped out of his faded pickup truck. At 56, he moved with the steady care of someone who deeply understood physical limitations. A light khaki jacket draped over his shoulders. A short cane steadied his right side. Though his hands trembled slightly at times, his gaze remained sharp, sweeping every detail ahead. A red and gold sign read, Golden Dragon Martial Arts Academy, printed above the image of a dragon mid-attack. Reggie adjusted his glasses, took a deep breath, squared his shoulders, and pushed open the glass doors. The reception area carried a faint mix of sweat and disinfectant. A blonde girl with straightened hair glanced up from her phone, her bored expression giving way to mild confusion. "Can I help you?" she asked with guarded suspicion. Reggie responded with a warm smile, quickly tapping something into his phone, then held the screen up. "I can't speak. I'd like to observe a class. I'm interested in learning martial arts." Her name tag read Melanie. She blinked twice, glanced at his cane, then back at Reggie's face. "You want to learn karate?" Reggie nodded, his gaze unwavering. "Is that possible?" He typed and showed the screen again. Melanie hesitated. I'll have to ask the manager. You can wait over there." Reggie nodded and quietly took a seat on a long bench by the wall. Through the large glass pane, he could see a class in session, around 15 students, mostly teens and young adults, moving in sync across a polished wooden floor. Every punch, every kick echoed with a loud ki-ai, uniforms fluttering with the motion. At the front stood a man in his 40s, a black belt around his waist, short-cropped, salt and pepper hair. His voice rang out across the room. "Again, stronger. Feel the power from within." Sensei Kane Walker paced in front of the class, his sharp gaze scanning every student. Reggie watched closely, hands folded atop his broomstick. The class continued for another 20 minutes before Kane clapped his hands together. "Line up, bow," he commanded. Students quickly formed neat rows, bowed in unison, then scattered into small groups, chatting and packing their gear. Reggie slowly stood and walked toward the edge of the training floor. Kane was wiping his brow with a small towel when he noticed the older man approaching. "Can I help you with something?" he asked, his professional smile not quite reaching his eyes. Reggie pulled out his phone and typed, "I hope so. I'd like to sign up for the beginner's class." Before Kane could respond, a burly young man with short blonde hair behind him snorted with laughter. "Hey, old Mandai's ability center's at the far end of the plaza," he pointed mockingly. Laughter broke out nearby, including from a tall, broad-shouldered guy who looked like his buddy. Kane's smile faltered slightly. "Brady," he said, a weak warning tone. Brady shrugged, slinging his gear bag over one shoulder. "Just trying to help him find the right place, Sensei Kane." Kane turned back to Reggie, clearly uncomfortable. "You know, this program is pretty physically demanding. I'm not sure it's ideal for someone in your condition." Reggie showed no emotion. He simply typed another line and held up the screen. I understand, but I still want to try. His smile was gentle but firm. Well, but, Kane hesitated. We also have to consider insurance, liability, the risk of injury. Kane. A sharp female voice cut in. A woman in her 30s with tightly pinned black hair stepped out from the office. I'm Erica Matthews, business manager of Golden Dragon, she said, extending a hand. Reggie shook it with steady confidence. Reggie Thomas, I want to join the beginner's karate class. He quickly typed and showed his phone again. Erica's professional smile stayed in place, but doubt flickered in her eyes. Mr. Thomas, we truly appreciate your interest, she said carefully. But Kane isn't wrong. Our program is designed for people with fairly strong physical condition. Reggie typed, I don't intend to compete. I'm looking for something disciplined and gentle. I believe karate can offer that. Erica glanced at Kane, then back at Reggie. Our policy is inclusive, of course. She lowered her voice slightly. But we also have legal concerns. If I'm not a good fit, I'll step away. But I'd like the chance to find out for myself. Reggie's tone was calm, respectful, but unwavering. Kane and Erica exchanged a look. Reggie didn't miss the subtle nod from Erica. Kane sighed, reluctant. Well, we could use a few more students, Erica muttered just loud enough for Reggie to hear. And it'll look good for our community outreach initiative. Kane scratched the back of his neck. All right, we'll give it a try. Beginner classes are Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 4 p.m. G rental is included for the first month. Reggie smiled sincerely and typed, Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity. Melanie will help you with the paperwork, Erica added, heading back toward the office. Kane, we need to talk about the tournament this weekend. As Kane followed her, Reggie turned toward the front desk. He could still feel the lingering stares behind him and hear the whispers of a few students who hadn't yet left. He held his head high. 20 minutes later, after completing the paperwork and payment, Melanie handed Reggie a neatly folded white karate uniform. This is the smallest adult gi we have, she said. The men's changing room is over there if you'd like to try it on. Reggie nodded in thanks and headed toward the men's locker room. Inside, a young man with neatly tied black hair was changing out of his gi. He looked up, slightly surprised to see Reggie walk in. Reggie smiled and quickly typed on his phone. Hi, I'm new. Oh, hi, sir, the young man said, a bit awkward. I'm Noah. Reggie typed again. Reggie Thomas, nice to meet you. Noah nodded and quietly returned to packing up his gear. Reggie found a bench and carefully unwrapped the uniform. It was clearly oversized for his slim, shorter frame, but he didn't complain. He slipped it on, struggling slightly with the stiff fabric, trying to tie the white belt the way he had seen during the previous class. When he stepped out of the locker room, a few students from the earlier session were still lingering. Brady and the tall, muscular Liam stood near the exit, barely containing their amusement at Reggie's awkward appearance. Hey, Liam, Brady said loudly. The legendary master has arrived. Liam burst out laughing. Dude, his belt's on backward. Reggie made his way over to Kane, who was prepping for the next session. He held up his phone, displaying the message. Is my belt tied correctly? Kane glanced down and quickly adjusted it. You're good now. You can join today's session. Just go at your own pace. The beginner class was smaller than the advanced one Reggie had watched earlier. Most students were teens or young adults, with only a few slightly older. Reggie was clearly the most unusual person in the room, not because of his age, but because of his quiet focus and intense gaze. Kane placed him at the back of the line. Today we'll be learning basic stances, he announced, starting with front stance. Reggie paid close attention as Kane demonstrated, then tried to mimic the pose. His legs protested fiercely as he lowered his center of gravity, and his balance was unstable. A few times, he had to use his cane to steady himself. No canes on the mat, Kane called out loudly. If you need that, maybe it's time to reconsider. Reggie bit his lip and nodded, He set the cane aside, steadied himself, and returned to position, moving more cautiously now. As the class moved through basic stances and simple punches, Reggie visibly struggled. His movements were stiff, his reaction times slow. He often forgot the sequence, sometimes faced the wrong way, or executed the moves in reverse. He heard the snickers, felt the smug glances both from students and, at times, even the instructor. But he remained steadfast, his expression focused, unwavering. After class, as students slowly trickled out of the training room, Reggie approached Kane. Despite the ridicule he had endured, he bowed deeply respectfully, in full accordance with dojo etiquette. He typed, "Thank you, Sensei, I'll do better." Kane looked slightly surprised by the man's grace and composure. Sure. See you Wednesday." In the locker room, Reggie could clearly hear the voices of Brady and Liam coming from the nearby men's restroom. The only thing separating them was a thin wall. "Did you see him in horse stance?" Brady sneered. "Looked like a lame deer learning to walk." Liam followed with a high-pitched imitation. "Thank you, Sensei," he cracked up, like something out of a vintage kung fu flick. Then Noah's voice rang, out quiet but firm. "Cut it out, guys. That's enough." "What's this? You defending the old man now?" Brady replied mockingly. "He doesn't belong here, and you know it." "Well, whatever," Noah shot back. "I gotta go." Reggie quietly changed, folded the gi neatly, and returned it to Melanie at the front desk. He walked across the parking lot with quiet composure, his cane tapping a steady rhythm on the asphalt. The drive home was quiet. No radio, no distractions, just the steady hum of the engine and the weight of the day's events. Reggie's apartment was in a modest complex, tucked into a quiet corner of town. A small one-bedroom, neatly kept, sparsely decorated with worn but carefully maintained furniture. On a small bookshelf stood a row of old photographs. A young Reggie, a dark-skinned man with his arm around a boy himself posing in front of landmarks across the world. He moved through his familiar space, prepared a simple dinner, and ate silently at the small kitchen table. Then he entered his bedroom, opened the closet, and reached for a carved wooden box on the top shelf. Sitting at the edge of his bed, Reggie opened the box gently. Inside lay a worn black belt, the fabric frayed but its color still deep. Beside it was an old photograph, faded with time. In it, a young Reggie stood among a group of men in martial arts uniforms, all wearing black belts. Behind them, a Japanese flag hung with solemn pride. Reggie traced the faces with his finger, pausing at his own standing tall, eyes fierce, legs planted with strength. That fire was still there, though now flickering quietly. Without a word, he closed the box, returned it to its place, and prepared for bed. Tomorrow would be another chance to remember who he once was, and maybe who he could become again. 2 days later, Reggie returned to the Golden Dragon Martial Arts Academy for his second class. He arrived early, his gi neatly folded inside a canvas tote, his face calm despite the knot of nerves in his stomach. The echo of mockery and sideways glances from the first session still lingered, but his resolve was stronger. Melanie barely glanced at him as he entered. "Class starts in 15 minutes, she said, pointing toward the changing room. Reggie changed quickly, tying his white belt with a touch more confidence this time. When he stepped onto the mat, a few students were already warming up among them. Noah, who offered a small smile when he saw him. Reggie approached and typed on his phone, "Good to see you again. Noah, right?" Noah nodded. "Yeah, how did Monday feel? The first day's always the roughest." Reggie smiled lightly and typed, "Just sore. I'll survive." He noticed Noah struggling with his stance, while practicing front kick-she's posture off, center of balance, unstable. Reggie gestured gently, then typed, "Can I offer a tip?" Noah hesitated for a second, then nodded. Reggie pointed at a spot just slightly off where Noah's foot was planted. "Try placing your foot here, and don't forget to breathe. Strength comes from here." He lightly tapped Noah's diaphragm, not just from the legs. Noah adjusted, took a deep breath, and tried the kick again. This time, he maintained balance, and the kick had noticeably more power. Whoa, that did feel better, Noah said, surprised. Thanks, man. Before Reggie could respond, Kane called the class to line up. They bowed and began with basic punches. Reggie moved slowly but with better coordination than before, though he still fell out of rhythm at times. Midway through, Kane paired everyone for light sparring drills. Reggie ended up standing alone after everyone had partnered up. Liam stepped forward, grinning. I'll take the old guy. Kane hesitated. Keep it light, Liam. Of course, Sensei, Liam replied innocently, his eyes twinkling mischievously. Nearby, Brady gave a thumbs up, clearly encouraging the spectacle. Students spread out across the mat. Liam faced Reggie, bouncing on the balls of his feet, clearly prepping for something more humiliating than helpful. Reggie stood in a basic stance, his guard up but still stiff and awkward. You ready, Silent Sensei? Liam muttered, just loud enough for others nearby to hear. Reggie nodded, eyes steady on the boy. All right then, Liam said, feigning politeness, and threw a light punch, clearly holding back. Reggie tried to dodge, but was too slow. The punch grazed his shoulder. He responded with a simple block and punch combo, but his timing was off, the movement clumsy. Come on, Liam smirked. My baby cousin hits harder. He followed with another punch, this time quicker. Reggie stumbled backward, nearly losing his footing. Then a light kick to the side made Reggie stagger again. A few students had now stopped practicing to watch. From across the room, Brady laughed openly. Liam, Kane barked, his voice sharp with warning. Ease up. I'm just teaching the basics, Sensei, Liam replied with faux innocence. He kept circling Reggie, throwing controlled strikes that Reggie either failed to block or reacted to late. Each time Reggie flinched or stumbled, Brady and a few others giggled under their breath. Noah, watching from across the room, frowned, momentarily forgetting his own partner. Finally, Kane stepped in firmly. That's enough sparring for today. Let's move on to kata. The class returned to formation. Reggie was breathing heavily, his face flushed with fatigue, but his eyes remained calm. Liam returned to Brady, immediately mimicking Reggie's awkward movements. Did you see his face when I kicked him? Brady said loudly, not even bothering to lower his voice. Noah glanced over, clearly annoyed but kept silent. After class, Reggie bowed deeply to Kane, again graceful and respectful. Kane nodded back, expression neutral, neither approval nor disapproval. The next day, Noah went to the public library after school to research for a social history project. In the sports section, he pulled a few books on martial arts history. Flipping through one about pioneering American fighters, he froze at a familiar name, Reggie Thomas. Curious, he read carefully. Among the few American fighters trained in Japan during the early 1970s, Reggie Thomas, pictured below, a member of the champion Tanaka school team, earned the respect of traditional masters for his dedication and natural talent. His competitive career was cut short following a controversy at the 1974 Tokyo Open. The next page had been torn out. The referenced photo was also missing. Noah stared at the text, his mind racing. Could it be him? The awkward guy from Monday's class? He checked out the book, then spent the evening scouring online martial arts forums. Only scattered, vague mentions of a Thunderhand Thomas and the Tokyo scandal remained. That night, in his small apartment, Reggie stood before his bathroom mirror. He lifted his pajama shirt slightly, revealing a long, jagged scar across his abdomen. The dark skin was broken by the ugly, raised mark, permanent evidence of a violent past. He traced the scar slowly, his expression distant. Then he closed his eyes and began a breathing root deep, steady, calming. Each inhale and exhale relaxed his body, muscles softening with familiar rhythm. Across town, an elderly Japanese man sat in a rental car parked near the Golden Dragon Martial Arts Academy. His silver hair was neatly combed, gray suit immaculate, posture flawless. On the passenger seat sat a folder filled with old photos, news clippings, and official documents, all bearing the name Reggie Thomas from decades ago. The man checked his watch, started the car, and drove off silently. His face was unreadable, but his eyes were razor sharp, missing nothing. The next class at Golden Dragon was more crowded than usual. A promotional event had drawn a number of potential new students to the dojo. Kane shifted into full performance mode, executing spinning kicks, breaking wooden boards, shouting commands with showy confidence for the onlookers behind the glass wall. Reggie arrived in his familiar oversized gi, quietly taking his place at the back of the line like always. But as soon as he stepped into class, he sensed a shift in the atmosphere. Students who had previously ignored him now whispered as he passed. Liam and Brady stood huddled together, occasionally glancing at him and snickering. Kane seemed distracted during the warm-up, his instructions vague, at times contradicting themselves. Front stance. No horse stance, wait, go back. Focus, people. As the class transitioned into basic technique drills, Reggie noticed something more troubling. Several students, especially Brady and Liam's group, began mimicking him. Deliberately slow movements, exaggerated stumbling, and even mock belt fumbling routines like the ones he'd performed sincerely. Kane grew visibly irritated as order dissolved. "This is a dojo, not a comedy club," he snapped, catching two students pretending to bow like Reggie. During break, Noah walked over to Reggie. He spoke quietly, voice steady. "Don't mind them, they're just kids." Liam overheard and approached. "What's this? You defending Grandpa now?" Noah stood straighter. "His name is Mr. Thomas. And yeah, I'm defending him. You guys should try respecting someone for once." Brady joined them, his broad frame casting a shadow. "You might want to remember who your friends are." Noah didn't flinch. "And you might want to remember what respect looks like." Liam leaned in close, voice low and threatening. "Keep standing up for him. See how long that lasts." Noah took a small step back, his confidence shaken, but not broken. Reggie watched everything from a short distance away, saying nothing, missing nothing. After class, Kane was called into the office by Erica, who had been watching the session through the glass window. "We need to talk," she said sharply. "The new reviews are starting to come in." Kane followed her into the office, where she held out a tablet. She read aloud, stylish, but lacking direction. "Instructor lets students bully each other, more focused on image than discipline. This isn't the kind of branding we want." Kane sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "This month's been rough. 3 advanced students left for that new MMA gym. Our tournament results were crap, and now the classes are a mess." "And your newest student is becoming a problem," Erica added, eyes fixed on him. "You're the one who pushed for inclusivity," Kane reminded her. "Inclusivity is great for optics," she replied curtly. "Disruption is not." She snapped the tablet shut. "Fix it." Later that afternoon, a few beginner students lingered to get in extra practice. Reggie remained in the dojo, quietly repeating a basic kata in the corner of the rumiak motion, slow but deliberate, his face a portrait of focus, as though the rest of the world had faded away. A boy around 12 was struggling through a movement nearby, frustration mounting with each sloppy transition. Reggie observed quietly, then approached. He typed into his phone, "Mind if I help?" The boy glanced at him, hesitated, then nodded. Reggie set the phone down, pointed at the boy's foot placement, and slowly modeled the movement. He typed again, "You're shifting your weight too early. Feel the ground before you move." The boy tried again, this time smoother, more stable. Reggie nodded, smiling, then typed, "That's it. Much better." Across the room, Kane watched and walked over. "Solid correction, but I thought you were only a few classes in," he asked, voice tinged with suspicion. Reggie smiled faintly, typed, "Old habits die hard." Kane crossed his arms. "What's that supposed to mean?" Reggie met his gaze calmly and typed again, "Balance and stance are universal. I'm new to karate, but I've lived in this body for 60 years. You learn a thing or two." Kane looked like he was about to ask more, but a student called for help, and he walked away still, visibly uncertain. Reggie returned to his corner and resumed his kata. The movement still a bit unpolished, but his eyes, always sharp, took in everyone around him. That night, as darkness fell over the city, Reggie sat alone in his living room. A cup of tea sat cooling beside him. The room was still peaceful. Suddenly, the landline rang. He picked it up on the third ring. Moshi moshi. The Japanese greeting slipped from his lips instinctively. An older man's voice answered in rapid Japanese. Reggie listened, his expression growing more serious with every word. When the voice fell silent, he responded quietly, "Hai, wakarimashita." Yes, I understand. He hung up, sitting motionless for several long seconds before rising and walking to the window. Outside, streetlights cast golden pools of light across the sidewalk. In the distance, an engine started, then faded into silence. They're watching. The voice on the phone had warned him. Are you ready to stop pretending? Reggie stared into the darkness. Reflected in the glass was the image of a man who had buried his secrets for decades and was now standing at the crossroads between hiding and revealing. It seemed the past had finally caught up to him. The next morning, gentle sunlight poured through the tall windows of Golden Dragon Academy. Students began trickling in for Monday's class. Reggie arrived early, more confident now as he changed into his gi, carefully tying his white belt a motion that had become ritual over the week. It wasn't comfort yet, but it was familiarity. That day, Kane introduced a new sparring format pairing students in a circle with rotating partners stepping into the center. Remember, Kane said firmly, control matters. You're not here to hurt someone. You're here to apply technique. When Reggie's turn came, he stepped into the circle to face a young girl named Sarah. They bowed. But as Reggie moved forward, Liam subtly extended his leg just enough to trip him. Reggie stumbled, nearly falling face first, but caught himself with one hand on the mat. Oops, sorry, Liam said, feigning innocence. Total accident. From outside the circle, Brady smirked and high-fived Liam while Kane's back was turned. Reggie stood up straight, dusting off his gi. Then he turned to face Liam. And this time, the warmth was gone from his eyes. Instead of anger or embarrassment, Reggie simply smiled a warm, knowing smile that made Liam shift uncomfortably. He bent down, typed quickly into his phone, and held it up for both Sarah and Liam to see. It's okay. Then he turned back to face his partner and resumed training as if nothing had happened. But the energy in the room had shifted. Liam's little prank didn't land the sting of humiliation he had hoped for. On the contrary, Reggie's calm demeanor made something in him uneasy. After class, while everyone was gathering their things, Noah approached Liam at the water fountain. That was too far, he said, just loud enough for a few nearby students to hear. Liam turned, water dripping from his chin. Why? Got a problem with it? The problem is you acting like a bully to someone who's done nothing to you. Noah crossed his arms, eyes sharp. He deserves the same respect as anyone else here. Brady stepped in, blocking Noah's path. Since when did you become the dojo police? Since people started thinking respect is optional, Noah shot back, standing his ground. A small group of students began to watch the confrontation. Kane noticed from across the room but continued tidying up the equipment, choosing not to intervene. Liam leaned in closer, voice low and threatening. You know what? You're right. Next time I'll hit harder. Maybe that'll teach him he doesn't belong here. A voice from behind made everyone turn. Reggie, gym bag slung over his shoulder, stood quietly just a few steps away. He raised his phone and typed, Noah, thank you, but I can take care of myself. He turned to face Liam and Brady, no anger, no sarcasm, just a calmness so still it was unnerving. He typed again, I hope you both find what you're looking for in martial arts. Clearly, it isn't peace. Without another word, Reggie walked away. Liam's face flushed. Brady said nothing unusual and telling silence. That night, the city's Central Park was nearly empty. A few late joggers passed by, and a homeless man dozed on a bench in the distance. Moonlight spilled silver over the grass, where one lone figure moved in silence beneath an ancient oak tree. Reggie, dressed in loose black pants and a fitted tank top, flowed through his movements. There was no awkwardness, now no hesitation, no tremor. His kata was a dance of strength and grace. Each step floated like wind. Each arm sliced the air with measured power. The body once deemed stiff and faltering was now a seamless stream of discipline and flow. The night was still, only the sound of wind and breath remained. Hidden behind a rhododendron bush, Noah held his breath, frozen in awe. He had come to the park to clear his head after the tension at the dojo, but he hadn't expected to find Reggie. And certainly not this Reggie. As Reggie completed his final motion and returned to neutral stance, he paused, inhaling deeply. Then, with the awareness of a lifelong martial artist, he turned, looking directly at the spot where Noah was hiding. He motioned with his hand, his voice calm and steady. "Come out. The bugs are bad in there." Noah emerged, awkwardly brushing leaves from his shorts. I'm sorry. I wasn't trying to spy, I just—" Reggie held up a hand, then gestured gently. "It's okay. Sometimes the truth needs a witness." Noah sat on a nearby bench as Reggie gestured for him to join. What you just did doesn't look anything like how you move in class." Reggie nodded, then typed, "It doesn't? Why?" Noah asked. "Why pretend you don't know when clearly you do?" Reggie studied him quietly, then showed a new line on the screen. "Some questions don't need answers. Not yet." Noah hesitated, then said softly, "I found a book at the library about the history of American martial arts. There was this part about someone named Reggie Thomas, trained in Japan during the 70s. That's you, isn't it?" Reggie's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Recognition? Or warning? The past is never simple, Noah. Sometimes it's best left asleep." That's what Reggie typed on his phone after a long pause. Then, as if to close the subject, he gave a soft smile and gestured. "It's late. Head home. Your parents are probably worried." Noah nodded, still shaken by what he had witnessed. Reggie bent down to grab the small bag resting at the base of the tree and typed one more message. "What you saw tonight, I hope you'll keep it between us." Noah could only nod slowly. He knew he'd just witnessed something extraordinary, but he also knew he didn't yet understand it all. As Reggie walked away, his posture slowly melted back into the familiar stoop. The mask slipped quietly back into place. The mastery revealed under the moonlight, now hidden, as though it had never been there at all. That image in the park lingered in Noah's dreams that night, fused with hazy memories of a martial arts documentary he'd seen years ago. A story about legends. In the dream, a younger Reggie stood inside a gritty fighting ring, his arm raised in victory by a referee, his opponent bowing in respect. Tokyo, 1972. Back then, underground matches were booming. Unsanctioned fights held in warehouses and basements, free from the restraints of formal leagues. That was where legends were made. Reggie Thomas, just 20 years old, fearless and relentless, stood across from a towering Japanese fighter. The man was nearly 2 heads taller and outweighed him by 40 pounds. He was known for breaking bones without hesitation. The crowd, all men, placed their bets against Reggie, waiting for a swift takedown. "The American kid's gonna drop in 30 seconds, someone shouted in Japanese. Reggie answered without taking his eyes off his opponent. "The American kid speaks Japanese." The crowd went dead silent. The bell rang. The giant lunged blazingly fast. But Reggie didn't back down. He stepped into the attack, redirecting the force rather than blocking it, slipping through the gaps in the man's technique. His counter was a single palm strike to the solar plexus, making the larger man stagger backward. The room went quiet. The match continued, and each of Reggie's strikes tore down the illusion of his weakness. The final move was a sweeping leg kick, followed by a strike that halted a breath away from the opponent's throat. Lethal, if he had wanted it to be. "Thunderhand," someone shouted, and the name rippled through the crowd like a wave. Noah jolted awake as his alarm blared. For a few seconds, he forgot where he was. His mind was still in Tokyo, still lost in a dream that felt too real to be fiction. That day at Golden Dragon Martial Arts Academy, everything seemed normal, at least on the surface. Brady was still showing off flashy spin kicks to a group of younger students. Impressive looking, but wobbly and shallow. Liam was quieter than usual, off to the side, practicing his kata stiffly, mechanically. Savannah stepped out of the office just as Kane was preparing to begin class. "Kane, we need to talk," she signaled for him to come closer. Their conversation was low, urgent. Noah, nearby refilling his water bottle, caught a few fragmented phrases. "Found it in his locker. Tournament rules. If this gets out, our dojo." Savannah clutched a file folder tightly, her voice low but firm. "Handle this before we lose more students." Kane nodded, but his furrowed brow said it all. A storm was coming. Kane looked tense. A few minutes later, Brady was called into the office. When he came out, his face was pale, and he avoided eye contact with anyone. Class went on as usual. Reggie once again played the role of the slow, clumsy old man off beat steps, unsteady balance. But this time, Noah saw him with new eyes. He recognized the performance for what it was. Every mistake, intentional, every awkward movement, a calculated choice. It wasn't clumsiness, it was camouflage. After class, while Reggie was packing up, Liam walked over, his tone stiff. "I wanted to say sorry about yesterday, that tripping thing. It was dumb." Reggie looked at him and nodded slightly. He tapped on his phone and held it up. "Apology accepted. But I'm curious, what made you change your mind?" Liam glanced around, making sure no one was listening. "My dad saw you yesterday, when you were walking to the parking lot." Reggie tilted his head slightly. "Alan Wilson," Liam continued. "He fought MMA back when it wasn't mainstream, never famous, but he knows his stuff." Words tumbled out quickly. He said, "That guy moves like someone who's trained his whole life. The way he turns his head, how his feet land, how he reads the space, it's not fake." Reggie remained calm. He typed, "Your father has a good eye." Liam gave a bitter smirk. "He's also a jerk who always thinks I'm useless. Last night he talked for an hour about how I punch worse than some old man at your dojo." Reggie paused, just slightly. Something flickered behind his eyes. Liam shook his head. "I'm not apologizing because of him. I'm doing it because I don't want to turn into him." Before Reggie could reply, the front door opened. An older Japanese man, dressed in a sharp gray suit, stepped in. His formal attire stood in stark contrast to the relaxed energy of the dojo. The receptionist looked up, startled. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to observe," the man said in fluent, heavily accented English. Kane came out from the back, raising an eyebrow. "Are you the local reporter? We were expecting someone to write a piece on the upcoming tournament." The man gave a slight bow. "I am Kenji Tanaka. I'm here on personal matters." Reggie, standing behind the trophy display case, froze. His eyes locked onto Kenji's. In that brief moment, a deep, quiet memory surfaced. Kane, unaware, motioned toward the seating area. "Feel free to sit in. Our advanced class is about to start." Reggie slipped quietly out the side door. But Kenji followed not long after, catching up to him in the parking lot. "Reggie," he called softly. Reggie turned. His posture straightened, eyes sharp as steel. "Kenji, it's been a long time." 40. 1 year, 7 months, Kenji replied. "Since Tokyo." A shadow crossed Reggie's face. "Why are you here?" "People will recognize you," Kenji said, voice low and urgent. "Are you ready for the consequences?" Reggie looked back toward the dojo, and then beyond. toward the city fading under the amber glow of sunset. I'm done running, Kenji. Old ghosts always find their way back. Inside the dojo, Noah was gearing up for the advanced class when he glanced out the window. He saw Reggie and the older Japanese man speaking in the parking lot. Their body language wasn't unfamiliar. They weren't strangers. Respectful, but long acquainted. After class, Noah quickly followed. "Mr. Reggie," he called. Reggie stopped, his expression guarded. Noah pulled a book from his backpack, the one from the library, and flipped to the page labeled American Martial Artists in Japan. "This is you, isn't it? It says you competed in the Tokyo Open in 1974, but the next page is missing. What happened? And who was that man?" Reggie gently closed the book, then typed into his phone. "Some doors are best left closed. You're not ready yet, Noah." "But why pretend?" Noah asked. "I saw you in the park. The way you moved it was like watching water flow. You're not a beginner. You're a master." Reggie looked at him, his eyes softening. Then typed, "Let the past rest. Focus on your own journey." Noah could only watch as Reggie walked away. Behind him, Liam approached with his gear slung over one shoulder. "What'd he say?" Liam asked. Noah hesitated, then chose to trust his instincts. "I think Mr. Reggie isn't who he wants everyone to believe he is." Liam nodded slowly. "My dad said the same. He mentioned an old documentary about American martial artists who trained in Japan. The way he moves, it's exactly like the footage my dad showed me," Liam said, voice dropping to a hush. He and Noah stood quietly in the corner of the locker room, two unlikely allies, now drawn together by a mystery slowly revealing its shape. Meanwhile, across town, in the administrative office of the Golden Dragon Martial Arts Academy, Erica sat alone, eyes locked on her screen. She scrubbed through the security footage, Brady opening a locker, pulling out a small bottle, shoving it quickly into his pocket, eyes darting. Erica hit pause. Then, delete. No hesitation. She picked up the phone and spoke as soon as the line connected. "We need to talk about the tournament. There's a situation that could impact the brand." The next morning, a new notice appeared on the dojo bulletin board. Notice: Freedom Challenge, Friday, 6:00 p.m. A skills exchange between students and instructors. Special exhibition match. Sensei Kane versus Mr. Reggie Thomas. Held to encourage confidence and inclusion. Brady burst into laughter the moment he finished reading loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "Oh man, the old guy's fighting Kane? This'll be the performance of the year." Across the room, Reggie read the notice quietly, his expression calm. When he heard the mockery, he simply turned and smiled, not a sarcastic grin, but the smile of someone who already knows how the story ends. On his phone, he typed a short note to himself. "I accept." Friday evening. The Golden Dragon dojo buzzed with energy. Extra chairs had been set up along the walls. A judge's table was placed at the front. The training mats had been rolled out into a pristine, centered square. Paper lanterns flickered warmly, casting a soft glow that gave the dojo the feel of an old-world stage. By 6:00 sharp, the room was packed. Parents, siblings, friends, everyone was eager to witness the match. A local journalist was on site, camera ready, hunting for shots to fill the weekend community column. Kane, dressed in his crisp white gi and signature red headband, moved through the crowd with ease, shaking hands, smiling brightly. "Perfect," Erica whispered, eyes never leaving her tablet. 3 new sign-ups just today." In the men's changing room, Reggie dressed with quiet precision. From the main hall, cheers and applause drifted in reactions to flashy kicks and powerful kata. Noah stepped inside, already suited up. "Mr. Thomas, are you okay?" Reggie looked up and gave a soft smile. Then he tapped on his phone and held it out. "I'm perfectly fine. Just focused." Noah's voice lowered. "You know this is Erica's move to embarrass you, right? Kane's a 5th-degree black belt, 3-time state champion." Reggie tilted his head thoughtfully, then typed, "Is that so? How interesting." Noah leaned in, even quieter. You don't have to do this. You could say you're not feeling well. No one would blame you. Reggie gently placed a hand on Noah's shoulder, then typed, I don't run from challenges, especially not the kind delivered with condescension. The sparring matchups went smoothly. Students were paired by rank and took turns demonstrating kata or light contact sparring. Liam won his round as form solid, though uninspired. Brady, who many expected to dominate, was eliminated early. His aggressive style left openings too easy to exploit. In the front row, Kenji Tanaka sat motionless, posture impeccable. His eyes met Reggie's several times, wordless, but saying everything. At last, Kane stepped onto the mat. Ladies and gentlemen, he announced, voice calm and commanding, we have a special exhibition tonight. As part of our commitment to inclusion, we want to affirm that karate is for everyone regardless of age or background. Whispers rippled through the crowd as Reggie walked out, white belt neatly tied, posture steady, gaze serene. Some chuckles echoed, but so did murmurs of confusion and curiosity. Mr. Thomas is a new student here, full of spirit, Kane added, bowing toward him. Reggie returned the bow with textbook precision, every angle measured, every movement respectful. From the corner of the room, Liam and Noah stood frozen, not blinking. Kenji, seated in stillness, placed both hands on a Japanese wooden cane resting before him. His fingers curled tightly around it. Kane cleared his throat, trying to maintain composure. Mr. Thomas will now perform a kata from our intermediate program, followed by a light sparring session with me. Polite applause rippled through the room, but many parents exchanged puzzled glances. Whispers crept between the seats like an undercurrent. This kata is called Han Sanden, Kane continued. It's usually performed by brown belts. I'll demonstrate first, then Mr. Thomas will do a simplified version. Kane stepped onto the mat, delivering each movement with precision and polish. His punches cracked through the air. His kicks were crisp and sharp. The crowd clapped enthusiastically. Then it was Reggie's turn. He walked calmly to the center and bowed. He began with hesitant steps, like he was struggling with muscle memory or age. Exactly what everyone expected. From Brady's corner, snickers echoed. Erica held up her phone to record, her smile calculated. But then, something shifted. Reggie straightened his back. His movements turned fluid, precise. Like a machine reawakened after years of silence. Each technique flowed into the next. His breathing was measured. His gaze was sharp. The entire dojo fell silent. Each strike sliced the air like a declaration. He was not just another student. He ended in the final stanzas, ki punctuated by a firm strike of his cane on the mat. The echo rang out like thunder in a cathedral. No one moved. Applause came slowly, then surged into a wave of thunderous clapping. Kane stood frozen, mouth slightly agape. Erica lowered her phone, lips parted, speechless. Kenji Tanaka nodded slowly, a faint smile tugging at the corner of his mouth. Well, that was unexpected, Kane finally said, regaining his voice. Thank you, Mr. Thomas. Now we'll move to the sparring portion. The two bowed. Kane adopted a picture-perfect stance, coiled, aggressive. Reggie stood tall, steady as aged bamboo, humble, but unshakable. Just light sparring, Kane announced to the crowd. I'll control the pace so we can all learn. Reggie nodded, silently switching off his voice box, mic a quiet signal. From here on, his body would do the talking. The bell sounded. Kane opened with a probing jab. Missed. He followed with jab, cross-front kick. Reggie didn't dodge it, simply wasn't there anymore. The audience held its breath. This was no exhibition anymore. Kane picked up speed. Roundhouse, reverse punch, fast, powerful. But Reggie floated like mist. 2 minutes in, Kane was soaked in sweat. Reggie, calm, focused, still breathing evenly. Finally, Kane lunged too deep with a straight punch. Reggie rotated, touched his wrist subtle, precise. Kane's balance collapsed. He staggered, nearly fell. The dojo was dead silent. Brady shouted, "What a load of crap. He just got lucky." He charged forward. "Let me show you what real contact feels like." Kane moved to intercept, but Kenji Tanaka had already risen. His voice was quiet, but it sliced through the room like a blade. "You will learn respect." He turned his icy gaze on Brady. "You stand before Thelma Inoue Gardner, 6-time national champion of Japan, direct disciple of Grandmaster Hidetaka Tanakami father." Kane whispered as if in a trance. "Thunderhand Gardner, the Tokyo legend." Erica stormed forward, face flushed. "What the hell is going on, Kane? You knew about this? Is this some PR stunt?" Kane shook his head, eyes still locked on Reggie, as if truly seeing him for the first time. Later that night, Kane sat hunched over his phone, rewatching the grainy park footage. He stared at Reggie, or rather, Thelma, moving with that same impossible grace. Each technique sharper, smoother, more lethal than what she had shown on stage. "I can't believe I once told her not to use a cane on the mat," he murmured. Erica snatched the phone, watched a few seconds, then shook her head. "We can't let this spin out of control. We need a press release, frame it as an inspirational marketing initiative." "Marketing?" Kenji echoed, voice like a drawn blade. "The return of a legend is not your advertising tool." Thelma activated her voice device. Her voice, deep and steady, filled the room. "I don't need fame. I need martial integrity." Kane crossed his arms, his gaze distant. "If this video goes viral, reporters, former dojas, they'll recognize her. If Tokyo finds out she's here..." Kenji finished his thought. "She won't hide anymore. The time for pretending is over." Outside, students lingered, still buzzing. Noah and Liam scrolled through the video's online comments. "Someone called him the Tokyo Ghost," Liam whispered. "Someone else said Thunderhand was a myth," Noah added, eyes wide. "No doubt anymore," Liam said. "He was number one, and maybe still is." Meanwhile, Erica tugged Kane aside as they left the office. "We need to capitalize. A return of the Legend seminar could draw press, students, sponsorships." Kane glanced at Thelma, now in quiet conversation with Kenji. "She's not a brand campaign, Erica." Erica shrugged. "Let's see what she wants to share, and who she wants to share it with." Across town, in a quiet cafe, an elderly Japanese man stared at a tablet. On screen, a freeze frame of Thelma from the viral video. Below it, a top comment read, "If Thunderhand is alive, then what happened in Tokyo 74 wasn't an accident." He sipped his coffee, eyes unblinking. In them burned not just recognition, but vengeance. Amanda yanked the phone out of Noah's hands, her face darkening. "This is a PR disaster," she muttered. "We need crisis control. Now." Kane glanced over at Reggie, who was standing quietly in the corner of the dojo, calm as ever. "It's not a disaster," Kane whispered. "It's a miracle." Out on the training mats, students had gathered into buzzing groups. "I can't believe we've been training with a legend," one said, wide-eyed. "My dad would pass out if he saw this," another added. Liam checked his phone. A text from Alan Wilson. "Get home. Now." Noah tapped Liam's shoulder. "You okay? You said your dad can be intense." "Probably just shocked," Liam replied, though his tense expression said otherwise. Brady approached, his usual swagger gone. "If he's really a master, then why pretend to be a beginner?" "Maybe he has his reasons," Noah answered evenly. "Not everything revolves around you, Brady." Brady looked flustered. "You knew, didn't you?" "I guessed," Noah shrugged. "But today? Now I'm sure." Liam returned home to find his father seated at the kitchen table, eyes locked on his laptop. On screen, a paused frame of Thelma Gardner mid-spin, her movement caught in perfect motion. "Do you even know who she is?" Alan asked. "Reggie Thomas. Thunderhand Gardner," his father corrected sharply. "The fighter who beat Hiroshi Kojima." champion of the Tanaka Invitational. He stared directly at Liam. She trained alongside you, and you didn't see it? She didn't say anything. Fighters don't say they show. His voice cut deep. Watch, learn, all of it. Across town, Noah's phone rang. Hello? Is this Noah Lee? Yes. This is Carmen Rodriguez from Black Belt Magazine. We're doing a feature on Reggie Thomas. Would you be willing to share your experience? Noah's breath caught. I'll have to think about it. The next morning, the Golden Dragon Martial Arts Academy became the eye of a media storm. Reporters crowded the entryway. Cameras rolled. Microphones lined the front desk. Flashes popped as if a celebrity had arrived. Amanda yanked the blinds shut, locked the glass doors. This is a full-blown catastrophe, she gasped, pacing. We've lost control of the story. Kane entered with a coffee in hand, calm. I think it's an opportunity. An opportunity we didn't create, Amanda snapped back, and can't control. Kane took a slow sip, eyes drifting toward the window. Outside, Reggie Thomas, no longer hiding, no longer limping through shadows, walked steadily into the dojo. A legend returned. Our brand is modern, accessible martial arts, Erica snapped, not some dusty mystic folklore. Kane didn't flinch. He repeated slowly, deliberately. Our brand should be authentic martial arts, taught with integrity. Maybe we lost our way. Before Erica could fire back, a knock came from the office door. Kane opened it. Kenji stepped in, composed in his classic gray suit, his presence heavy enough to settle the room into silence without a word. We have a problem, Kenji said directly. Obviously, Erica cut in bitterly. The entire state is watching Golden Dragon martial arts. Kenji shook his head. Not fans, someone dangerous. His name is Kojiro. Kane's eyes narrowed. Kojiro? The man behind the Tokyo Underground fights in the 70s? The one accused of fixing matches? The same, Kenji confirmed. Reggie's win over his champion cost him millions. His empire collapsed. He never let it go? Erica asked, tension rising. Kenji's voice grew colder. Some wounds don't heal, especially when pride is what bleeds. That afternoon, Reggie stepped into the dojo and everything had changed. The students who once ignored him now bowed deeply. Some kids asked for photos. Adults nodded with quiet respect. By the water station, Brady cornered Noah. Nice video, he muttered. That your big plan? Fame grab? Betray the dojo? Noah stood his ground. The truth was bound to come out. Brady scoffed. You sided with her. The mute filmed her to make everyone else look bad. Maybe I just recognized real skill, Noah cut in. And maybe you should grow up. Martial arts isn't about winning. It's about respect. His voice carried weight. Brady blinked, speechless, as Noah walked away, head held high. That night, the dojo lay still. Silent. A dark figure slipped through the back entrance, picked the lock with practiced ease. He moved without a word, leaving no trace except damage. Weapon racks overturned, training mats slashed by a dagger, and on the wall-length mirror, spray-painted in thick, black kanji, Chad, shame. The next morning, Kane stood in the wreckage, heart sinking. Erica called the insurance company, her face pale. Students stood outside, unsure, shaken. This is the cost of your legend, Erica hissed. Kane's voice was calm but firm. No, this is the shadow of an old era, and it began long before Reggie ever walked through our doors. Far from the city, Reggie knelt before a simple headstone. James Franklin Gardner, 1945, 2005. He laid down a piece of black cloth, the final remnant of a once proud black belt, worn in a battle that changed everything. He opened a notebook and wrote, "They've found me, James. You always said they would." Footsteps approached from behind. Kane, hands in his pockets, quiet. "Sorry to intrude," he said gently. Kenji told me I'd find you here. Reggie stood. He pointed to the headstone. My husband. Then he typed and showed Kane. We met after I left Japan. He was a Marine. And a fighter. Kane nodded slowly. The dojo was attacked last night. Reggie nodded. He already knew. And he knew exactly who did it. He typed again, I'm sorry. For bringing danger to your peaceful place. Kane read the words. And for the first time, truly, his eyes reflected something new. Trust. I actually came to apologize, Kane said quietly. I misjudged you. Worse, I stood by when others disrespected you. Reggie didn't speak, but his eyes softened. He nodded gently, then pulled out a worn leather notebook reverently, like a sacred artifact. On the first page, written in faded ink, the way of martial arts is a journey, not just technique. James F. Gardner. Kane took the notebook and bowed deeply. Thank you, Sensei. The next morning, just as sparring class began, a young Japanese man stepped through the dojo doors. Crisp white gi, no logos. Pristine white belt. I'm here to challenge the strongest fighter in this dojo. Kane stepped forward, extending his hand. I'm Sensei Kane Walker. We don't usually— Not you, the man cut in. His eyes scanned the room, then stopped. On Reggie, who had just emerged from the locker room. Him. The dojo fell silent. The stranger bowed. Reggie Inu Gardner. I've waited for this moment a long time. Reggie didn't move, but Kane noticed his shoulders tense ever so slightly. Reggie typed, What's your name? Hiroshi. Son of Kojiro. Hiroshi nodded. No smile. No emotion. The two men stepped onto the mat. Kane moved to intervene, but Kenji gripped his arm. You can't stop this. This has to happen. Hiroshi struck first, blindingly fast. A flurry of techniques that would drop most fighters instantly. But Reggie, he flowed around each move, like water. Untouchable. It lasted just 10 seconds. But to Kane, it was the most extraordinary 10 seconds he had ever witnessed in his life. Round 2. Hiroshi switched to grappling, spinning kicks, pressure holds, but Reggie remained grounded, balanced, traditional. At last, Hiroshi unleashed a whirlwind, a storm of raw, trained fury. And Reggie slipped inside it like a whisper. One hand extended, lightly touching Hiroshi's chest directly over the heart. A strike that never landed, but said everything. I win because I don't need to strike. Hiroshi stopped. He bowed deeply, then walked away without a word. Kenji murmured, He is truly Kojiro's son, but with restraint. Reggie nodded, then typed, They've found me. Kenji replied without hesitation. It's no coincidence. This is only the beginning. That evening, in the office, Hiroshi was raised for revenge, Kenji told Kane. Kojiro didn't just lose money. He lost face. Reggie exposed his rigged empire. Kane frowned. But that was 50 years ago. This isn't about legality, Kenji said grimly. It's about legacy, a blood feud. Reggie typed, voice replaced by truth. He raised his son like a sword. Kane stared. And yet, you spared him. Ending it with blood only spills more blood. Early the next morning, Erica arrived at the dojo and noticed the office door had been tampered with. She checked the system. Reggie Thomas's profile had been wiped. No name, no records. Gone. She whispered to herself. Done. No one can link her to us now. Behind her, Kane's voice rang out. What are you doing, Erica? She flinched, then straightened. Protecting the dojo. No records, no liability. You call that protection? Kane snapped. You're erasing the person who brought honor back to this place. I'm protecting the future of 50 students. Kane's voice lowered but burned with conviction. And what are you teaching them? That we abandon our own when things get hard? That branding matters more than honor. Erica hesitated, words caught in her throat. You're overreacting. No, I'm finally reacting. Kane stepped forward. Restore every file. Now, or I walk. She stared, stunned. You'd throw away 15 years over one stranger? Kane didn't blink. I'd walk away from any dojo if it forgets what it was built for. Kane's words rang out like a final bell, ending months of silent tension. I'm willing to walk away from this dojo if it's forgotten why it exists. While Kane and Erica clashed behind closed doors, across the city, Liam sat curled up on a park bench at dawn. His face was pale from sleeplessness, eyes swollen, exhausted. And then Reggie Thomas appeared. He moved slowly through the morning fog, hoodie pulled up, hair neatly braided, gaze gentle but seasoned. Liam shot to his feet. Mr. Reggie, can I talk to you? Reggie didn't speak. He just smiled a quiet, open, patient look that said more than words. Liam took a deep breath. My dad, he always made me win. No matter what, he's never satisfied. When I lose, he makes me train until I drop. The words spilled out a dam finally breaking. Reggie listened. No judgment, no interruption. Only that steady gaze full of understanding, full of grace. That match with Hiroshi. You didn't fight hard. You didn't force it. And still, it was perfect. I want to learn that. I want to be strong without becoming a monster. Reggie pulled out his phone and typed a single line. Meet me at 5 a.m. tomorrow. Wear something comfortable. No gi. The next morning, and every morning after, Liam showed up. On a misty open field, Reggie guided him in silence. Breathwork, slow movements, standing still on one leg. He wrote, Strength comes from stillness. Power without direction is violence. At the Golden Dragon Martial Arts Academy, cracks began to form. Brady, once arrogant and loud, now stood in the center of the mat, jabbing a finger toward Liam. You think you're better than me now? What, you Reggie's little pet project? Liam just smiled. They sparred, but this time Liam didn't fight to win. No tension, no memorized combos from his dad. He flowed, evading, redirecting, dissolving. One soft push. Brady fell. Where'd you learn to fight like that? Brady gasped, stunned. Liam reached out a hand. From myself. Not anyone else. Noah, now deep in detective mode, kept piecing the past together. Kojiro wasn't just a fight organizer, he told Liam. He ran an entire illegal betting ring, rigged matches, paid off outcomes. And Reggie refused to throw his match? Liam asked. No, he didn't even know it was rigged. But once he realized, he still chose to fight for real. That win, it collapsed everything. So, Hiroshi's here for revenge. Yeah, but why wait 50 years? Before they could answer, Brady approached them unexpected. I saw Erica meet with some guy. They were arguing about the tournament brackets. She's rigging the matches? Noah's eyes widened. Brady nodded slowly. Last year, she knew I was juicing. But she kept quiet. She needed me to win. A long silence fell. 3 former rivals, now sitting on the same bench, all realizing one truth. They'd all been used. Over the next week, the dojo split. Some students sided with Erica. Others began seeking Reggie for guidance after class. Kane, once skeptical, had become a student himself. The notebook Reggie gave him, filled with principles Kane had never encountered. Technique is not for victory. It is for preservation. One evening, Kane found a red envelope slipped under his door. Inside, a simple note. Lose one more time, and your dojo won't be the only one that pays. He rushed it to Reggie and Kenji. What the hell does this mean? Reggie read it. His eyes darkened. The upcoming tournament. Hiroshi will be there. And if he loses, especially to someone connected to me, there will be consequences. Then we pull out, Kane said. We can't risk it. Reggie shook his head. Pulling out only delays the fight. Sometimes, the only way to stop violence is to meet it head-on. In a quiet Japanese district across town, Hiroshi Kojima knelt before his father's shrine. A framed photo of Kojiro stared down, stern, fierce. I found her. The family's honor will be restored. He stood. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with vengeance. At dawn the next day, the sky was rose-colored. At the park, Reggie led a small group of students through training. No uniforms. No scoring. Only presence. He wrote, "The body is an instrument, not to dominate but to tune." Noah stood beside Liam and saw something he had never seen at the dojo. Freedom within structure. Stillness in motion. After class, Kenji approached and handed Reggie a letter. Reggie read it. His mouth tightened. Kojiro just placed a public 50-0 bet on Hiroshi's victory through a Tokyo fight syndicate. Still choosing money over honor, Kenji muttered. I won't tell the students, Reggie replied. They need to focus on themselves, not that rotten world. That afternoon, Reggie walked into an abandoned warehouse, now a covert MMA den. The sound of leather on sandbags. The stench of sweat, blood, and testosterone. Violence, breathing. He said nothing. But his eyes, they had already chosen. This fight was no longer history. It was coming. And this time, he wouldn't be facing it alone. Outside a sleek training center bearing bold glass lettering Kojima Elite Combat, Reggie Thomas came to a halt. Through the mirrored windows, he saw Hiroshi leading a class of advanced students. His movements were sharp, precise, carrying the same stern energy that once defined Kojiro, his father. Reggie watched silently. Hiroshi's form was familiar, but evolved. It wasn't just legacy, it was reinvention, a modern reinterpretation of a brutal lineage. As if tethered by an unseen thread, Hiroshi looked up. Their eyes met through glass, through decades. A quiet moment. Then Hiroshi stepped out of class. You shouldn't be here, he said plainly. Reggie gave a slight nod. No words, just presence. And somehow, Hiroshi understood that. No excuses, no defensiveness, just acknowledgement. You carry my father's ghost, Hiroshi muttered, his jaw clenched. Reggie opened his phone and typed. That legacy was his to ruin. I only refused to bow. I wasn't his student. I trained under the Tanaka family. He rigged the match. When I refused to throw it, everything collapsed. Lies. Hiroshi snapped, but his eyes flickered with uncertainty. Reggie slowly lifted his shirt, revealing a long scar running beneath his ribs. A parting gift from your father. I didn't leave Japan out of shame. I left to survive. Silence. You abandoned a broken world. True martial spirit died with it. And you think revenge will resurrect it? Hiroshi didn't respond right away, but his gaze softened. You had a chance to finish me at the dojo. Why didn't you? Reggie wrote, because I was once like your father. But now I know violence is never the answer. Hiroshi didn't argue. He just whispered, I'll face anyone you send at the upcoming tournament. He turned to leave, but Reggie gestured for him to pause and typed, You are not your father. Remember that. Back at Golden Dragon Martial Arts Academy, a sudden twist unfolded. Brady intercepted Liam near the locker room, his smugness gone. I saw Erica handing an envelope to the referee. Yesterday. A bribe? Liam frowned. She's been doing it since last year's regional. She knew I was doping. She kept it quiet as long as I kept winning. Liam stared at him, disgust rising. She used all of us as tools. I'm not a good person, Brady sighed. But just once. I want to do the right thing. Liam stayed quiet, then held out his hand. Truce. Brady smirked and shook it. Temporary. The next day, Noah was leading a warm-up when her parents arrived unexpectedly. After class, they approached Reggie, who was helping a younger student adjust their stance. Mr. Thomas, Noah's mother began. Thank you. Because of you and martial arts, our daughter changed. She used to be bullied. Now, she's confident. Reggie smiled, touched. He typed, she has talent. But more importantly, she has heart. You're an inspiration, Noah's father added. Would you honor us by joining our family for dinner? Reggie nodded. He wasn't used to invitations, but this time he felt safe. From the office window, Kane watched the moment. There it was, a real teacher, connecting deeply with students and families. Something the dojo had long forgotten. Something Erica's leadership had erased. Tournament day arrived. The students of Golden Dragon gathered early. The energy, tense but electric. Liam faced a small, agile opponent in the opening round. But instead of charging in, he stayed calm, precise, elegant. He didn't need power, only timing. Victory came effortlessly. And as the referee raised his hand, Liam spotted his father in the crowd. This time, his expression wasn't anger. It was reflective. Next up, Brady. His opponent, the same one who beat him last year. When the moment came to finish with a punishing strike, Brady paused, chose restraint. Still won by points. Why didn't you finish it? Kane asked afterward. Brady shrugged, eyes drifting toward Reggie. Winning is one thing. How you win, that's what matters. The matches continued. Golden Dragon racked up victory after victory. During the break, Kenji spotted Hiroshi warming up with his team. They exchanged a glance. No words, but understanding. And right before the championship match, Kane stepped into the center ring. We'd like to invite two masters to demonstrate a kata rarely seen outside Japan. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, then silence. Reggie and Kenji stepped forward. They bowed to each other, then to the audience, and began. The paired kata was flawless. Every movement in harmony. No flash, no embellishment. Only tradition, discipline, and the quiet truth of martial arts flowing through every strike and block. The room held its breath. No one thought about scores. Only the sacred silence of true martial spirit. Each movement flowed like water, a seamless current, binding two martial souls across decades of mastery and mutual respect. Though Reggie Thomas and Kenji Tanaka were both well into their 70s, their synchronized kata made time pause. Every strike, every stance pulsed with precision, calm power, and rare serenity. As they bowed in unison to conclude, the crowd erupted in thunderous applause. Students from different dojos rushed forward, snapping photos, asking questions, trying to capture the moment they had just witnessed, a pure, timeless expression of martial spirit. A local reporter made his way through the crowd, notebook in hand. Mr. Thomas, is this your official return to the martial arts world? He called out. Before Reggie could respond, Erica stepped in sharply, voice cold as steel. Mr. Thomas is not an official instructor at Golden Dragon Academy. He's just a guest. Kane, nearby, no longer looked composed. Surrounded by students, families, and fellow martial artists, he took a deep breath and made a choice. That's not true, Kane declared loudly. Reggie Thomas is an honorary member of our dojo, and it's time everyone knew the truth. He turned to the crowd and spoke clearly. He told them about Erica's manipulation of tournament brackets, how she covered up Brady's steroid use, and how she erased Reggie's name from the academy records. This ends today, Kane said. We either stand for real martial values or become just another trophy shop built on illusion. The room fell into a heavy silence. Some parents murmured anxiously. The judging committee called an emergency meeting. Erica's face flushed. She offered no rebuttal. and quietly walked out. And then a figure stepped into the ring. Hiroshi Kojima, traditional black GI, the Kojima clan crest embroidered on his back. "I'd like to register for the open challenge bracket," he announced, then turned to face the crowd, not as a guest, but to issue a challenge to Reggie Thomas. The judges conferred urgently. Finally, a senior judge with salt and pepper hair approached Reggie. "This is highly irregular. You're not a registered fighter, and this kind of match isn't covered by insurance." Reggie nodded calmly, then typed on his phone. "But some debts. Can't wait." After tense deliberation, the committee agreed to host a special exhibition bout, Reggie Thomas versus Hiroshi Kojima. The news spread like wildfire. Spectators flooded back into the venue. Fighters from other categories ringed the main floor. In the locker room, Liam approached Reggie, who was removing his jacket. Underneath a worn, silver-stained gi and a weathered black belt that bore the weight of legend. "You don't have to do this," Liam whispered. "This is his grudge, not yours." Reggie gave a gentle smile, then typed, "Some cycles don't break until we look them in the eye." He stepped onto the mat. Hiroshi was already waiting. Spine straight, eyes razor sharp. They bowed the ancient way. The command rang out, and silence fell. The match began, but it wasn't a fight. It was a conversation without words. A dialogue of bodies about honor wounded, dreams betrayed, ideals lost, and darkness endured. Hiroshi struck first. A barrage of force, traditional karate fused with MMA low kicks, sweeps, elbow clinches. But Reggie stood firm, moving like mist, calm, unshaken. He struck only when necessary. Each of Hiroshi's blows could have felled any other opponent, but they could not penetrate Reggie's stillness. Because Reggie wasn't fighting to win. He was there to reveal the truth. After over 3 minutes of evenly matched combat, Hiroshi launched a fierce combination, a spinning knee-elbow strike meant to end the match. Reggie didn't dodge. He stepped inside the strike, open-handed, placing his palm gently over Hiroshi's chest, right above the heart. Hiroshi froze. He knew if Reggie had shifted his weight, it would have been over. But Reggie didn't. They stood still. No hatred remained. Only understanding. Reggie bowed deeply. Hiroshi stepped back and bowed deeper. He said nothing, then walked away. The room held its breath, and then erupted into applause. Kenji stepped forward, pride shining through his calm expression. "He saw," he whispered. "Now, it's time to write a new path." Reggie Thomas moved with the grace of flowing water, not retreating, not resisting, but blending with Hiroshi Kojima's force, neutralizing it without direct opposition. From the sidelines, a coach whispered to his student, "Watch his footwork. He hasn't lost position once." "And the timing of his counters?" another murmured. "It's like he's reading Hiroshi's mind." The match grew increasingly tense. Hiroshi pushed harder, landing a spinning kick that barely missed Reggie's head. The crowd gasped. Yet Reggie remained composed, countering with a precise strike to Hiroshi's ribs, stopping just short of contact. They separated, both breathing heavily. Sweat beaded on Hiroshi's brow. Reggie's steps slowed. He was, after all, nearly 50 years older. Suddenly, in a clash of momentum, Reggie's right shoulder dislocated. The pain flashed across his face as his arm dropped limp. Hiroshi seized the opportunity, launching a rapid series of attacks toward the injured side. But Reggie didn't retreat. He employed deep breathing techniques, lessons passed down by his late father-in-law, to control the pain. He pivoted, using his left side, his balance held together with the subtlest of adjustments. The audience stared in awe. Before them stood an elderly, wounded man, yet unyielding, dignified, unafraid. His eyes did not reflect pain, only resolve and serenity. "My father said you disgraced our family," Hiroshi shouted mid-fight, rage trembling in his voice. "That you destroyed everything he built?" Reggie remained firm, gaze steady. Your father built his empire on deceit. He fixed matches, threatened dojos, and corrupted the art we both love. He devoted his life to martial arts, Hiroshi bellowed. No, he used martial arts for personal ambition. That is not the same thing. The match continued. Hiroshi's strikes grew more desperate, as if he were fighting a ghost, not a man. Reggie, even exhausted, stayed his ground. He wasn't fighting. He was teaching. You had the chance to end my father after the scandal, Hiroshi said softly between breaths. Why didn't you? Reggie paused, eyes calm. Because forgiveness is harder than violence, and compassion takes more courage than revenge. The final exchange began. Hiroshi unleashed his ultimate flurry, fierce, relentless. But Reggie stepped forward into the storm. His entry shattered Hiroshi's rhythm. With a single pivot and low sweep, Reggie gently placed his open palm on Hiroshi's chest, right over the heart. The arena fell silent. Reggie Thomas had won, not by knockout, but by having the power to end it and choosing not to. Hiroshi's eyes widened. He dropped his arms and slowly bowed his head. Then, in a moment of sacred humility, he knelt at Reggie's feet, forehead to the floor. I lived too long in my father's hatred, he whispered. Now I don't know how to live without it. Reggie knelt down beside him, placed a hand gently on his shoulder, then typed into his phone. That will be your next journey, and maybe the hardest fight of all. No one moved. Liam stood first, bowing deeply toward Reggie. Then Noah, then Brady. One by one, the students of Golden Dragon Academy rose together, heads bowed not in victory, but in reverence for the spirit that had won. Even Kenji, normally stoic, wiped a quiet tear. He bowed deeply to the finest student of his lifetime. In the weeks that followed, everything changed. Kane bought out Erica's shares and restructured the dojo. He reintegrated traditional martial ethics into a curriculum of modern training. A formal investigation, backed by Kenji's Japanese sources and Noah's research, exposed the corruption tied to the Kojiro legacy. Bribed judges, rigged results, steroid cover-ups. Authorities dismantled Kojiro's remaining network. Key operatives were arrested. His assets were frozen. Hiroshi, after time away, returned to the dojo, not as an adversary, but as a guest instructor. His knowledge of contemporary techniques, blended with Reggie's deep-rooted philosophy, ushered in a golden era of holistic martial training. A month later, at a solemn ceremony, the dojo unveiled a new name, Gardner Tanaka Karate Academy, honoring both the American woman warrior and the Japanese tradition that forged her. Reggie, in his faded black belt and traditional gi, stepped onto the dais. In front of him, Kane knelt, donning a white belt symbolizing rebirth. Reggie wrote, "In the Tanaka tradition, true learning begins only when we admit we are empty. Sensei Kane has chosen to begin again." As a student, he turned to face the gathered students. Liam, Noah, Brady, and new faces, full of hope. And then Reggie wrote one final message. This dojo shall now uphold the spirit of harmony. Between innovation and tradition, between strength and compassion, between discipline and joy. A little girl, no older than 6, raised her hand high during the very first class, under the new name, Gardner Tanaka Martial Arts Academy. Sensei Reggie, she asked timidly, will you teach us to be strong like you? Reggie Thomas smiled. The lines at the corners of his eyes bore witness to all he had endured. Rejection, misunderstanding, exile, and finally, becoming a role model without ever needing to raise his voice. He placed a hand gently over his heart where it still beat, quiet and resilient. Then, on his voice device, he typed slowly. The machine spoke in a calm, steady tone. Strength takes many forms, but the most important kind always begins here in the heart. The true battle isn't to defeat others. It's to become the best version of yourself. The ceremony ended in a quiet, moving reverence. Students gathered into groups, following their instructors. Liam, now a composed and steady assistant instructor, led one group, calm, focused, no longer chasing approval. Noah, always enthusiastic, notebook in hand, sharp questions ready, a seeker of truth, now becoming a guide. Brady, quieter now, his swagger softened, yet his gaze showed clarity instead of confusion. Hiroshi, no longer the hunter of vengeance, but a teacher, walking beside his students instead of above them. And in the back, Kenji, stoic as ever, a silent sentinel of the martial tradition he helped carry through generations. Reggie stood watching, arms crossed, eyes soft. This dojo, once a battlefield of doubt and erasure, was now a home for a new generation, built on integrity, compassion, and the unwavering spirit of martial arts. He stepped toward the children's class, crouched to their eye level. In his hand, the familiar digital board, his fingers signed slowly. Breathe. Center your mind. Begin. 3 simple words, yet the roots of everything his father-in-law taught him long ago, back in the Tanaka dojo in Japan. And now, those same words passed on not through language, but through presence. Bare feet tapped in rhythm on polished wood. Steady breaths rose into the sunlight, streaming through the windows. In the children's eyes, a glimmer of something sacred. Readiness to learn, courage to persist, and the kindness to grow. Reggie Thomas, once silenced by stigma, hidden in the shadows, now stood in full light, his silence more powerful than any speech. He was no longer just a martial artist. He was the bridge between tradition and modernity, between pain and healing, between what had been and what could still be. His battle had never ended. It had simply transformed. 2. Into quiet mornings teaching children how to breathe. Into Noah's confident gaze, now mentoring others. Into Brady's reaching hand, once lost, now open in peace. Into Liam's steady walk, now firmly outside his father's shadow. Into Hiroshi's silent bow, having left vengeance behind to step forward as a builder. This was Reggie's greatest teaching, and his most profound victory. That true triumph isn't in defeating an opponent, but in creating a legacy that lives on, long after you've stepped off the mat. What will you fight harder to protect? Your own pride, or the power to change someone else's life? If this story has moved you, share it. Let hidden journeys and unexpected strength continue to ripple outward.